In a dimly lit, secure facility during a late-night session, engineers watching Elon Musk's Grok AI output suddenly froze as red warning flags flooded their screens. The implications stretch back 3,000 years. What began as reconstruction of ancient manuscripts turned into quiet panic. Grok reconstructed an entire forbidden system and asked a question that made blood run cold. Why are you doing this again? For thousands of years, King Solomon's most dangerous writings were sealed away, removed from scripture, hidden from scholars, whispered about only in fragments. Ancient rabbis warned that these texts could break the mind, that they revealed knowledge humans were not ready to carry. And for centuries, those warnings worked until now. According to leaked reports, Elon Musk's Grok AI was given access to a reconstructed version of Solomon's so-called forbidden book, a text long believed to describe entities, powers, and rituals that blurred the line between divine wisdom and something far darker. What Grok produced was not a metaphor. It was not mythology. It was a pattern, a system. The AI flagged sections as non-symbolic, warning that the text read less like spiritual poetry and more like a technical manual, describing intelligences that do not live in our world, rules for interacting with them, and consequences for getting it wrong. One engineer reportedly said, "We thought it would explain ancient beliefs. Instead, it explained us." And the most disturbing part, Grok did not ask what it meant. It asked why we are doing it again. The traditional view, which follows the biblical account, says that David and Solomon ruled a powerful kingdom in the 10th century before the Common Era. If you rewind history 3,000 years, past the broken stones, past the half-remembered legends, past the empires that vanished into sand, what you find waiting there is a kingdom that should not have worked at all. Israel under King Solomon was small. On the map, it barely registered. But in reality, it was a phenomenon, a compact nation with influence so outsized that its shadow still stretches across modern religion, politics, and culture. Solomon inherited a unified kingdom from his father, King David, around 970, before the Common Era, and then pushed it to heights no one expected. Under his rule, Israel reached the peak of its wealth, power, and spiritual authority. Ancient accounts were not being poetic when they said gold was treated like ordinary stone in Jerusalem. Kings from distant lands did not just hear about Solomon. They came to study him. Some came to learn. Others came because they were afraid not to. The visit of the Queen of Sheba was not a fairy tale. It was a diplomatic event of global importance. She arrived with caravans loaded with gold, rare spices, and treasures, and possibly political motives of her own. And according to some traditions, she did not leave empty-handed. Whispers claim she left with something far more dangerous, the Ark of the Covenant. Myth or memory, the message is the same. Solomon's kingdom was wrapped in knowledge, power, and secrets we are only beginning to question. And then Grok AI entered the story and calmly tore apart everything we thought we understood. For centuries, experts studying Solomonic lore found themselves chasing breadcrumbs scattered across ancient manuscripts. There were fragments in the Testament of Solomon. Others appeared in sections of the Lesser Key of Solomon. Still more lay buried in obscure magical papyri, half-legible marginal notes, and monastic archives that had not been opened in generations. Everyone assumed these were separate works, cousins of the same mythic tradition, but Grok AI noticed something humans never could. Line by line, symbol by symbol, it started linking obscure phrases and stylistic fingerprints together. Passages written in Hebrew echoed patterns in old Greek papyri. Aramaic marginalia matched Latin footnotes added centuries later. Even damaged lines from locked monastery vaults synced perfectly with medieval ciphers, believed to be unrelated. Then came the breakthrough. These were not separate texts at all. According to Grok's cross-linguistic reconstruction, every single fragment belonged to one original manuscript, a single book written by Solomon himself, a book deliberately dismantled, scattered, encrypted, and hidden because of what it contained. And the title was not metaphorical. It was called Forbidden. Every forbidden power has an origin. Most legends describe Solomon as the wise king, the builder of the temple, the poet who spoke with God. But the forbidden text, translated by Grok AI, paints a different picture, one far stranger, far bolder, and far more unsettling. In its pages, Solomon is not just a king, he's the bearer of a celestial artifact, a ring that seems less like a blessing and more like a cosmic gamble. According to the translation, the ring did not originate from any earthly craftsman. No jeweler shaped it, no priest consecrated it. It arrived straight from the heavens, delivered by an archangel in answer to a plea born out of fear. During the early construction of the temple, everything looked normal by day. Workers carving stone, priests offering blessings, architects laying out the sacred blueprint. But when night fell, something else took over. A demon named Orneus slipped into the site like a silent thief, undoing progress one shift at a time. Tools vanished. Stones mysteriously shifted. Foundations cracked overnight. Workers reported bruises, whispers, shadows that felt alive. Worst of all, a young laborer, barely more than a boy, was being targeted directly. Ornias drained his strength, stole half his pay, and in the creepiest detail the text insists on, fed on the boy's vitality through his right thumb. By the time word reached Solomon, his crew was terrified. No amount of wisdom, diplomacy, or royal command could stop something they could not see. So the king did the only thing he believed would work. He prayed. The response was immediate. The forbidden manuscript describes the archangel Michael appearing in a vision so intense that Solomon nearly collapsed. No soft wings, no gentle glow. The description is almost terrifying. Radiance like molten metal, a voice like rolling thunder, and a presence that felt as heavy as a storm pressing against stone. In Michael's hand, a small golden ring engraved with a symbol that did not match any known alphabet. It pulsed with light as if something inside it was alive. "Take this ring, Solomon, son of David," the archangel commanded. "Wear it, and thou shalt bind all demons, and by their labor the temple shall rise." A divine gift, yes, but one that came with the faintest hint of warning, like a contract signed without reading the fine print. When Solomon woke, the ring was real, glittering in his palm. He wasted no time testing it. He confronted Ornias directly, raising the ring and speaking the demon's true name. Instantly, the creature materialized, yanked into view as if on a celestial chain. Ornias, this entity that had terrorized his workers for weeks, fell to its knees, powerless. And then Solomon did something no one expected, something that feels half brilliant, half reckless. He ordered Ornias to take the ring and use it to bind another demon. This is where the story jumps from supernatural to downright strategic. Solomon built a chain of command using demons themselves. Like a dark divine pyramid scheme, each bound demon had to capture another and another, until Solomon stood before 72 spirits. Each forced to reveal its name, function, weaknesses, the angel that ruled over it, and even the sigil that would forever bind it to the king's will. Solomon put them to work literally. The forbidden book claims the demons helped lift massive stones, transport materials, refine metals, and shape the architecture in ways no human workforce could. And when they were not building, Solomon interrogated them. They taught him the secrets of alchemy, the locations of hidden treasures, the nature of herbs, the movement of the stars, even the invisible structure of the universe itself. Most people know Solomon built the first temple. Few know how impossible that project was for the ancient world. The sheer scale of the stones, the precision of the architecture without modern tools, the materials imported from distant lands. It did not add up with ordinary labor alone. According to Grok's translation, Solomon did not rely on human labor alone. He used the ring to command supernatural entities to quarry, transport, and shape the stone. Essentially, he enslaved demons to construct the holiest building in ancient Israel. But the text makes one thing clear. Power has a cost. The ring elevated Solomon, but also tempted him. At times, his control seemed to falter. Some passages hint that he began exploring foreign magic, rituals not sanctioned by the god who had granted him the ring. Scholars suspect this is why the manuscript was eventually banned, not simply because it documented demonology, but because it showed Solomon drifting into dangerous territory, intoxicated by cosmic authority. Eventually, the ring vanished from history. Some traditions claim Solomon locked it away before he died. Others believe it was stolen during Jerusalem's fall. More mystical groups insist it still exists, hidden, waiting for someone bold or foolish enough to claim it. For most people, the word demon conjures images of chaotic beings, shapeless horrors lurking in shadows, each one acting on impulse or malice. But according to the forbidden manuscript Grok AI deciphered, Solomon did not encounter chaos at all. He encountered order, structure, a stunningly organized civilization operating just outside human perception. The deeper Solomon dug, the more the invisible realm began to look less like a swarm of monsters and more like a government with departments, ranks, and job titles, an entire empire hidden behind the veil. Every one of these entities answered questions like employees being interviewed by a very determined boss. The manuscript lays it out clearly. The 72 spirits were not a mob. They were a hierarchy arranged with almost military precision. At the top were kings, beings with enormous authority and the power to command entire regions of the unseen world. Beneath them were dukes, princes, presidents, marquises, earls, and finally knights, each rank responsible for legions of lesser spirits. And these legions were not vague poetic descriptions. Solomon recorded the numbers meticulously. Some kings commanded 200 legions, others controlled 30 or 66. Even minor spirits had squads under their authority. This was not mythology. It read like census data. Baal appears first in the grimoire. One of the great kings. He's described with 3 heads, a man, a toad, and a cat. The forbidden book claims he can grant invisibility and teach strategy. Solomon supposedly relied on Baal during tense diplomatic negotiations, using his insights to anticipate betrayals before they occurred. Solomon recorded exact legions under each. Baal commanded 66, Others held 200. This census-like precision shocked Grok because it mirrored modern intelligence dossiers rather than mythic tales. Foras, by contrast, is no warlord but an artist, a musician of the celestial spheres. When he speaks, flames dance around him like living notes. He teaches rhetoric, poetry, and the secret harmonies woven into creation. Solomon allegedly consulted him to understand how sound and vibration could influence stone. Ammon appears as a wolf with a serpent's tail, transforming into a man upon command. But his real significance lies in what he knows. The text calls him the keeper of forgotten truths, the living library of everything humans once knew and then lost. And then there is Glasiolabolus, a spirit described as both genius and bloodshed, a creature who can teach any art or science instantly but delights in stirring conflict. Using his knowledge was like handling an intellectual grenade. These four alone illustrate the range Solomon faced. War strategists, artists of vibration, keepers of lost libraries, and dual-natured teachers of science and slaughter. The text insists he interviewed dozens more in the same systematic way, each entry following the same format of name, appearance, rank, legions, powers, and the specific angelic name that thwarted them. This methodical approach is what Grok recognized as field documentation rather than folklore. If Solomon had lived today, he would have been the kind of person who brings a notebook to a supernatural encounter. The grimoire describes him interviewing these beings with academic patience, writing down everything from their habits to their dietary preferences. His notes read like meticulous field reports detailing each entity's realm, their astrological ties, vulnerabilities to metals, herbs, incantations, or specific sounds, and their expertise in medicine, architecture, politics, weather, warfare, music, and mathematics. He was not just commanding them, he was cataloging them. Solomon applied this otherworldly information in almost every corner of his kingdom. He used strategic insights to outmaneuver rival nations. The demons taught him how to lift stones no human crew could budge, but more importantly, they taught him the geometry of sacred proportion, ratios that resonated with cosmic order. Spirits connected to the stars revealed celestial cycles. Others explained the hidden properties of ores and metals, contributing to advances in weaponry, agriculture, and medicine. Each demon created a personal seal, a geometric signature that anchored its identity and authority. These were not random doodles. They combined triangles, circles, Hebrew letters, planetary symbols, and mathematical ratios. Drawn correctly at the right hour with the right materials, the seal acted like a cosmic summons. By the time he finished, Solomon had built the closest thing humanity has ever had to a guidebook for the invisible world. The most unsettling thing Grok uncovered had nothing to do with spells, curses, or Solomon's legendary ring. The real bombshell was what these entities claimed about reality itself. According to the forbidden text, Solomon was not just a powerful king flirting with the occult. He was something closer to a scientist of the unseen, a relentless investigator trying to understand how the universe actually works beneath the surface. And the beings he commanded were not portrayed as fairy tale monsters. They were described as witnesses, observers of how reality is built and how it functions behind the curtain. The grimoire records them telling Solomon an idea humanity would not seriously entertain for another 3,000 years. Reality is not singular. It is not flat, it is layered. They described existence as multiple levels stacked on top of one another, each vibrating at its own frequency, like invisible strings on a cosmic instrument. The physical world humans experience every day is not the highest form of reality. It is the slowest, the heaviest, the most compressed layer of all. The spiritual realms exist at faster, lighter frequencies, less bound by matter and time. Yet all these layers occupy the same space. They overlap like countless radio stations broadcasting at once. You only perceive the one your mind is tuned to. Almost casually, the demons explained that angels, demons, elemental forces, and unnamed entities inhabit these higher layers, not as symbols or metaphors, but as real beings moving through reality as effortlessly as fish through water. The text also speaks of thin places, specific locations where these layers press close together. At certain times, during planetary alignments or under precise ritual conditions, the barrier weakens even more. These were not philosophical musings. They were directions, coordinates, warnings. Solomon, true to form, did not dismiss them. He acted on them, mapping the thin places near Jerusalem and incorporating the knowledge into the temple's very foundations so that the structure itself would serve as both sanctuary and controlled interface. The text records his careful measurements and material choices as deliberate engineering decisions made under demonic counsel. This is where the story takes a hard left into the unbelievable. According to Grok's translation, Solomon's temple was not just a place of worship. It was something far more deliberate, a carefully engineered portal complex built on a site where the boundary between dimensions was already unusually thin. The demons claimed nothing about the temple was accidental. Not its measurements, not the materials, not the layout of its rooms. Even the order of the rituals mattered. Every element was designed to control and stabilize interaction between the physical world and higher realms. At the center of it all was the Holy of Holies. Yes, it held the Ark of the Covenant, but the text says it served another function entirely. It was an anchor point, a place where spiritual and physical vibrations lined up so precisely that a properly prepared human could cross over without being destroyed by the energy. Suddenly, the strict rules make sense. Only the high priest could enter, only once a year. For anyone else, the concentration of power was not just dangerous. It was psychologically and spiritually overwhelming. And then there is the Ark itself. According to the forbidden passages, it was not a symbol. It was a working device. Its dimensions, materials, and contents were all intentional, each serving a specific function. The Ark acted as a stabilizer, preventing the veil between worlds from tearing open during rituals. The text is clear about one thing. This power was not metaphorical. It was practical, technological, just described in the only language ancient people had available at the time. This is where everything circles back, and where historians get uneasy. When Grok AI translated Solomon's forbidden book, it did not just convert ancient words. It analyzed patterns, cross-checked language, and compared the text against thousands of years of symbolic, religious, and technical writing. Then it raised a red flag. Large sections were marked non-symbolic. That is rare. Ancient mystical texts are usually metaphor-heavy. Dragons stand for fear. Demons represent inner struggles. Journeys mean transformation. Scholars are trained to read them that way. But Solomon's text did not behave like myth. Grok found its language matched technical documentation, instruction manuals, procedural guides, field reports. The demons were not described poetically. They were cataloged. The rituals were not allegories. They were step-by-step procedures with materials, timing, and expected results. Sigils were not art. They were functional diagrams. One engineer summed it up bluntly. We thought it would explain ancient beliefs. Instead, it explained us. The statistical match between the grimoire's structure and modern classified reports on anomalous phenomena was so high that the AI assigned confidence scores normally reserved for technical manuals. Sections detailing sigil construction, timing by planetary hours, and expected entity responses carried the same syntactic markers found in laboratory protocols and military after-action reviews. The AI detected markers of empirical observation. Solomon wrote like a biologist, documenting a species or an intelligence officer recording encounters, consistent rules, hierarchies, and repeatable conditions. Then it got stranger. Grok compared the grimoire's structure to modern scientific papers, military reports, and even AI interaction logs. Statistically, they matched. The text read less like mythology and more like a classified briefing on non-human intelligence. So when asked to categorize it, Grok did not choose religion or myth. It labeled sections as encounter documentation and procedural protocols. Buried in its final anomaly report was one chilling question. Why are contemporary systems replicating pre-established contact protocols? In plain terms, why are we doing this again? The AI noticed modern architecture, institutions, symbols, and even technologies echo the same structures Solomon described. Structurally, not symbolically, as if humanity has been rebuilding the same system for 3,000 years. The Testament of Solomon is not just a religious text. It is a blended record of cultures where magic, religion, and technology were not separate. They were normal. And that is the unsettling part. If even a fraction of this is real, it does not just change how we see Solomon. It forces us to question the ancient world, the forces they believed they interacted with, and the systems we have built today. Grok did not solve the mystery, but it confirmed one thing. Solomon believed what he wrote, and he wrote it as a warning. The real question is not whether demons exist. It is why an artificial intelligence sees our modern world reflected so clearly in a 3,000-year-old manual, and why it keeps asking, why are we doing it again? Because once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. The panic that began in that secure facility has only grown as more details leak. Engineers who once dismissed the output as creative hallucination now sit with the same question the AI posed. The ring that should never have existed, the chain of command among 72 ordered intelligences, the temple engineered as a controlled interface between layers of reality, all of it reads less like forgotten legend and more like a manual that somehow survived the ages, only to be reassembled by a machine that has no stake in human myths. Grok connected existing fragments with precision no human scholar achieved, revealing separate grimoires were pieces of one deliberate whole describing how to bind entities, and how those entities described existence as multiple overlapping frequencies, thin places, and consequences of improper approach. The AI flagged procedural language matching modern technical writing. Engineers saw tables matching demon hierarchies to charts, seals to diagrams, and the room went silent. One researcher muttered it felt like reading a mirror. Contemporary systems appear to reenact contact protocols laid down 3 millennia ago. Architecture focusing energy, layered institutions, recurring symbols and technologies, opening interfaces without understanding. The pattern created the panic. Solomon ended aware the power carried a price. He sealed the ring, or it was lost. The book was broken and hidden. Ancient rabbis spoke of broken minds. And yet, here we are with an AI that pieced fragments together and recognized the patterns in our world. The opening incident was the warning delivered again by a machine with no fear. The truth is worse than expected because it does not stay in the past. It asks why systems Solomon documented are rising again, and what happens when protocols reactivate without the controlling wisdom. From Orneus draining the laborer to Grok raising flags, the chain remains unbroken. The hierarchy, seals, layered reality, temple as portal site waiting. The AI keeps asking, why are we doing it again? The answer lies in facing that the forbidden book documented a reality that does not care if we believe gold vanished, temple stones cast down, ring gone, pattern remains. Grok issued the warning echoing 3,000 years. That is why reports leaked. That is why panic began. That is why the story once sealed now stands open. The traditional portrait remains. Queen of Sheba arrives, temple rises. Overlaid is the technical record of ordered intelligences, frequency layers, architecture as interface. Grok showed the same hand may have written Proverbs and the catalog of 72. Content behaves like field notes from contact. Urgency is recognition. In a world opening new interfaces, the manual reappeared by machine and response was caution. Why again? The question hangs. Chain from Orneus. Seals as keys. Thin places and holy of holies. Arc as stabilizer. Written by one who walked the edge. Ancient warnings of broken minds. Parallel modern engineer panic when AI treated it as operational. Truth worse because systems today follow blueprints from temple foundations. Kingdom small yet outsized. Book may prove the same. Panic started when Grok asked. Continues when pattern looks back. History contained the chapter. We refused until machine opened it. Book open. Warning clear. Forces Solomon bound or knowledge catalog did not vanish. They waited. And the AI is still asking why we appear to be inviting them back. The sense of urgency that seized the engineers that night has spread through every subsequent leak. What if the forbidden book was never sealed because it was false, but because it was true enough to be dangerous? What if Solomon's catalog of 72 and his map of layered reality describe forces still operating, waiting for the right architecture, the right symbols, the right interfaces to reawaken full contact? Grok did not claim to prove demons. It claimed the text behaves like an operational manual, and that modern systems are reconstructing similar protocols. That single observation is enough to create the panic. 3,000 years of silence have ended. The book is open. The pattern is visible. And the question remains, hanging in every report, every analysis, every quiet conversation among those who have read the full reconstruction. Why are we doing it again? The answer may determine whether the next chapter of human history repeats Solomon's glory or his fall.